What's up, guy?
Ooh, man. Got Batiste on. Tony was on a second ago. What's up,
What
brother? How you
up?
doing?
Good, man.
Uh-oh, what's going on with that audio? There.
Jesus, guy, you've already started talking to yourself?
Yes, sir. Hey, they don't make this junk easy, buddy.
Oh, I know.
They do. Dude, I got a delay. Okay, I gotta mute that. So there's a delay on YouTube. I was like, what in the world is going on here?
There always is. So,
I just had to mute it.
yep. Yeah. Remember all those years?
Yeah, buddy.
And actually it's coming back.
I gotta see. I just don't see the comments. Where the heck are the comments?
On the YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, it's on the side.
It's on the
What's up,
side.
homies? Yeah, got it. Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
That's the only reason I asked Michael Batiste on here.
Okay. Now that I've done my part, I'm clicking off. Y'all can
See you, brother. I love you.
Ass hat.
All right, Mr. Weaver. Let's see. Who we got? Who we got? So, Mr. Cole Wilkes, Michael Batiste, Garrett Weaver, and Mr.
Garrett,
Tony
turn your
Gilbertson.
dang camera
So you're
on.
gonna have to show that. I was gonna say you're gonna have to show that beer tonight, buddy.
I know.
Hey,
Tony, get it flowing. Garrett, turn your camera on. There you go. So,
how you guys doing?
Good,
Good.
brother. How
Got
are
the
you?
mute on, Garrett.
Garrett, we can't hear you.
What's up, Tony? How are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Good.
Good. Dude.
Yeah. Garrett, we're still not picking you up on audio.
What about now?
Gotcha.
I said
Actually-
I can't grow a beard like you guys do, so don't judge me.
Nobody can grow a beard like Tony there, buddy.
This is actually 5 weeks right here. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Tony just didn't tell you that Miracle Grows is secret. You just,
Hey,
right.
whatever the secret is, man, that beard is on point, buddy.
That's right.
Yeah.
I've been work. This is like, I don't know, 6 or 7 days is all.
yeah,
Oh, just kidding.
yeah. You got to work that stuff in. You got to massage it. You got to talk to
Oh
it.
man, I've got a routine down. I got a regimen. My buddies. I went over to my buddy's house this last year when my beard was a lot longer, and got up in the morning, took a shower, went in the bathroom, and I go through and I blow dry it and I put all my oil in it, whatnot, and I walk out and he says, was that a blow dry I heard in there?" Because he knows that I don't have anything up top here, so there's really no need for a blow dryer, right? Oh, he gave me so much crap about that.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
That's
Worst,
right.
worst part is every time I start trying to grow mine out long, let the beard or the goatee go long, I always have that one hair on this side that always ends up curling and starts going up into the nostril. And I don't care. I can throw gel, I can throw paste, I can throw oil, I can do everything. And that one absolutely, it'll stay in line for about 30 seconds, and then just boop right back up there. And
You
I
gotta
don't
just
know how
jerk
many
it out,
times.
man.
I-
You gotta
Yeah,
just
I was
jerk
gonna
it out.
say,
I have.
Gotta pluck
I've reached up and jerked it out and brought tears to my freaking
Oh yeah,
eyes. Yeah.
Fuck. Huntsman.
yeah, it hurts.
Woo,
Yeah.
man,
Now,
look
the
at
only
this.
thing is, though, have you ever had one get caught in your bowstring or anything when you go to
Oh.
shoot and have that bring
My
tears?
My
to your-
mustache,
Uh-huh.
mustache on this side always is a little bit weak compared to the other side because I,
Because they're getting plucked out.
Plucking them.
yeah, yep.
Hey, so I'm gonna do intros real quick.
Are we missing
Huntsman. No, Huntsman just popped on. Let me expand this.
I know. Is Jilly going to tune in?
Jilly is jumping in. He texted me. He said he's going to make it. He
And
wasn't
Jermaine?
sure. Hodge is going in on Princess late, so we gotta have to-
Princess Late.
Not sure what Huntsman's doing there, all frozen, but he's kind of half cockeyed. And
Jim's always half cockeyed, bro.
he may have hit the moonshine a little bit before he hit join meeting.
He was texting me talking mess already, so we're all good with him being frozen.
Perfect.
Oh, dude, him and I recorded, when was that? Very recently. I'm just waiting to get blown up after our shit talk on that one. We went hard. I mean, my wife is like, "How did you get on the LGBTQ plus?" I'm like, "I don't know, but we totally went there, and I'm probably gonna get added a million times over that one."
Because Huntsman threw his rainbow-colored tutu on before y'all started recording.
Look, he can't even say nothing. He's still holding that mic. So we got Joe and Jermaine. We're waiting on. Let's see what's up, Jermaine.
Can y'all hear me?
Got
Oh,
you,
yeah.
brother.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
we got you.
Perfect. Perfect.
So let's do intros. So I got Cole Wilkes. We got Tony Gilbertson, Mike Batiste, Garrett Weaver, and Mr. Josh Walker. So I'm not sure who knows who doesn't know who.
Yeah,
I know
Cole-
all you.
Cole and
SOBs.
Josh, I don't think I've met you two before. Nice to meet you guys.
Pleasure to
Yeah,
meet you
nice.
guys. Absolutely.
Yeah, nice to meet y'all too. So I'm one of the Elk Bros coaches, the original coach that's been filming with Hunt Wars the past couple seasons. I've got a YouTube channel. I've been hunting elk straight for 10 years. My wife luckily lets me go for the entire month of September. So, I've had the opportunity to stick an arrow in an elk every year.
Nice.
But yeah, I've got a new little website started up called Learn Hunt Harvest. We're basically taking a bunch of city people out and teaching them how to hunt for their first time. And
That's awesome.
yeah. So that's just now starting to get rolling. So that's kind of my roundabout.
Nice.
Right on.
Awesome.
All right. Jim is coming back on. I got
Tony
two-
and Josh, what's your guys' businesses or spills?
Yeah. So I retired from the NFL in 2018 and moved out here to Colorado. And right now, my main goal in life is to figure out how I can, kind of get my toe into this industry. And I just want to hunt. Moral of the story, I just want to hunt. So, I've started my little IG and dropped a couple little YouTube videos. And big thing is I've completely immersed myself into learning these animals out here, man. I'm an East Tennessee boy. So all this stuff's completely new to me, but been fortunate enough to, learn enough to be able to put some stuff on the ground in my
Hey,
my
don't-
couple of years doing it.
Don't let his humbleness fool you. The man is an absolute stud on the mountain, dude.
I appreciate that
That's
guy.
why he's here. That monk is a killer.
That's a nice boy you got there behind you too.
Thank
Quite
you. I sure appreciate it. Thank you very
Well,
much.
That's a stud.
First bull, solo hunt.
First
It
bull.
was an awesome deal. Yeah, it was an awesome deal, man.
That'll ruin a guy right there.
There's about
I
only where to
know
go
it.
down from there.
That's about like having your first hunt be about 27 minutes long, and the call you used had a condom in it. Oh wait, that's right. That
He
was
stopped
my
using the
first
call, but he still puts the condoms in his mouth.
Yeah. So you two new guys. I'm Michael Batiste. I own Elk Calling Academy. I've worked. I've been hunting elk since 1989. I've worked in the hunting industry and for call companies and various companies for over 20 years. And Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, website with online course and one-on-one lessons and compete in calling contests. And so, because of Elk Calling Academy, that's how I got wrapped into some of these guys and calling contest with Gilbertson and Jermaine. Jermaine, you and I haven't been in the same contest because I've kind of stepped away for a couple of years when you started going strong in it.
It's hard.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
No, we haven't been in the same contest, and I will tell you, yeah, that's basically pretty much how a lot of us have started anyways. And we've been out there killing elk and doing things in the industry on the sideline. But no, me and you have not been in the same contest.
That's all right. I got people that are poking and prodding me to come out of retirement, so you boys might see me next year.
Uh-oh.
I'm kind of getting the bug. I'm kind of getting the bug a little bit.
If Michael comes out, I'm getting in.
Well, okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell you right now, guy. I'm calling it Hunt Expo, and I'm going to use that as a gauge to see how rusty I am on stage and if I want to go to Worlds or not. So
that's not a good competition to kind of judge yourself. Me, me and Tony already know. We like
that one stung, man. That one stung.
It stung hard, and I said, I was bitter about that for a while. But man, those when you out there on stage, and we know this, we all know this, that it's difficult on stage.
It is.
Versus being in the woods. Listen, you can make a lot of mistakes in the woods, but you can't make a mistake on that stage.
No.
And even if you think you make a mistake on that stage, don't make a mistake on the stage. It's subjective.
Yeah.
The judges, the judges are
They got a hard
hearing what
job.
they do have a hard job. And what's very hard is for us to sit back and say, "Oh, you made a wrong call." As a caller, you made a wrong call. When honestly, we can look back and be like, "Man, Tony sounded great," or "This person sounded great," or whatever. And shit, I look back and I was at that particular expo, and I was like, wow, me and Tony are definitely in the finals. Lo and behold, me and Tony are not in the finals.
So we went back to the booth with our tail between our legs and went licking our wounds a little bit. And went, man, what just happened?
What just happened?
And it sounded really good, I thought, but the judges thought otherwise. And like Jermaine said, it's so subjective, and it's changed so much over the years.
It has.
The Worlds now, it's head-to-head contest, which I think is a lot better.
Yeah.
But this wasn't that way, they're back there rating you on a scale from 1 to 10, and depending on where you fall in the lineup, it could help you or hurt you.
Yeah. Long story short, don't use that competition.
No, Jermaine. I got a funny story for you about that competition. In fact, the year I walked away with the title over there. So you talked about screwing up. I got through my cow routine and I got into my bull routine. And a lot of times I'll just picture like I'm out in the mountains. And so I'm sitting there and I cracked off a couple of bugles and I turned and I just did this soft mew. And then I went into bugles and I immediately panicked because I mewed in the middle of my cow routine. And I walked off stage just mad, and I'm like, you idiot, you just freaking tanked that. And they start announcing the top 3, and they get to the top 1 and announce my name. And I'm like, what, the truck? And as I'm walking up, 4 judges stopped me and they're like, we had never heard anybody do a bull mew on the stage in contest. And we're so glad you did that. And I'm like, yeah, I wasn't really sure how that was going to go. I'm glad you guys got it.
Perfect.
Oh, complete screw up. And that's the year I won the title on that one. So I'm very familiar with that contest.
That's fun.
Yeah, that contest humbled me deeply. I went, 2019, I went over there after, Colorado Springs. It was one of my first ones. And then my second one was that competition. And then I stepped in the big stage and these big boys, I'm like, oh, Jesus, this big competition. It's 32 contestants out here. You draw it out of the hat. And next thing you know, I'm like, all right, we'll just see what we got here. Man, these guys started calling, and I was like, Jesus, they are amazing callers. And I was blown away. And, at the end of the competition, it was between one of my Army missions, and they said, well, if you want to see results, you can see it right there on the stage. But if you haven't placed top 5, you will not be called back. And I wasn't called back. And I looked back at it, And I said, 15 out of 32? You got to be kidding me. No way. And I went back and I told my wife, I said, my wife even knows I don't take losing easy. And sure enough, I just practice. And then next thing you know, I went through world championships and did a great job at world championships, and I won it in 2019. And that was the same competition. I mean, not the same competition, but the same year that I had placed 15th at regionals.
Yeah.
So it kind of tells you, like, you know, there's some great callers out there.
Mm-hmm.
And but you know, these competitions are tough, and being on stage and being able to call on stage is a lot different, like I said, than it is in the woods, because you can make mistakes in the woods. You can't make mistakes on stage because a lot of people are judging, or not just a lot of people. The judges are judging you, but also Tony's sitting here judging me right now. I see him judging me right now, and
We're all judging you, brother.
I'm getting judged, and we're getting judged. But at the same time, we also know that you can fool an elk without really being able to sound exactly like an elk.
Yeah.
If you guys get where I'm coming from.
They're not nearly as critical as the judges are.
No,
No.
absolutely.
Well, let's kick this off, boys. So I'm going to start. I'll go in order of YouTube here, right? Let's do a quick intro. You know, right off the bat, thanks everybody for jumping on and joining us. I got a house full of studs on this, and I did this intentionally, right? I got Tony Gilbertson. I got Cole Wilkes, I got Mike Batiste, Garrett Weaver, Josh Walker, Jermaine Hodge, Jim Huntsman, and my boy, Mr. Joe Gillia. Last but not least, Joe, thanks for jumping on, man. I know you guys are up there in Canada. You getting hanging out?
Oh,
with,
my pleasure, dude, man.
Travis, man. So I did this intentionally, guys, right? You guys are all prolific on the mountain. You guys are all prolific in calling. Some of us are stronger than others. Some of us are masters at e-scouting. Some of us are masters at just sheer effing luck.
Hey, man, I'll take luck over anything.
Right.
So, you know, for the people watching and listening, right? You know, you got the Flatlander coming out of Texas, right? So Troy's coming in and he's traveling to hunt, right? So we got a perspective there. You got Tony Gilbertson hunting up in Rosie Country with Garrett Weaver. You know, Rockies and Rosie's up there, right? So we're in that thick timber country. Reprod, the whole nine up there. Josh Walker, kind of new to the elk hunting game, but Josh is my boy, hell of a hunter. And this man gets busy on the e-scout. And one of the pictures I posted on the Instagram, I got a shot from behind him looking at those computer screens, and he got more pins marked and locations getting that e-scouting in.
Was that Josh?
Yeah, and just the sure willpower to go out there and make it happen when he hits the field. Mr. Jermaine Hodge. I mean, we don't really have to say much about Jermaine. Jermaine, you know, they dropped that video with Phelps this year and the Koha folks, and you know, Jermaine's out on the mountain killing it. He's on the stage killing it, and he's pulling in bulls not just for himself but the family, friends, the whole nine. Mr. Mike Batiste, Elk Calling Academy. Mike is one of my original mentors in the elk game. You know, when I started, you know, Mike was who I was watching and talking to. We did a lot of the Wapiti Wednesday stuff. Mr. Huntsman here, that's my boy. Jim runs the Western Huntsman podcast. School of September is probably one of the best compilations of absolute elk killers that Jim puts together every year, getting people ready for September.
Absolutely.
Dang, man.
And then last but not least, the Hefe, the El Don of the Elk Bros, my brother Joe Gillia. He's up in Canada getting ready to chase moose and elk.
He's catching walleye.
It's happening, bro, man. The dream is real.
So I put this group of guys together because there's so much diversity. There's so much knowledge. There's probably, God dang, with Joe here, there's got to be 500 years of elk hunting experience.
I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming. Poor Joe, man.
So, Josh, why don't you kick it off, man? We're getting some questions, but like I said, Josh gets out, man, and he's getting after it. He goes out, kills that first bull, that bull behind him, on a solo mission, and just diligence, right? Going through the e-scouting, and Josh and I kind of talked about it, but we got a lot of folks, man, that are coming out of state, and that's their primary means of education in terms of terrain. So what is the importance of that e-scouting, and then how do you lend that to success? And then we'll bounce that off of everybody.
I mean, to me, if you're going to come out here, especially you're going to drive thousands of miles, hundreds of miles, whatever it may be, and invest X amount of dollars into it, e-scouting something that's, I think it's necessary. I don't know how you come out here anymore and you don't do your due diligence from the standpoint of e-scouting. Not only just finding the elk, just finding where you can camp, finding somewhere that's public land accessible, finding somewhere that if you bring your four-wheeler, not every trail you can have a four-wheeler on, it goes all the way down the line, right? And for me, it's very important because I don't like wasting time. And as y'all know, there's going to be times where you go in a spot and you pack in and, all your elk finding features are there, but the elk might not be there. I don't see that as a waste of time. But if I don't have a plan, I waste the time. So for me, it's just a part of a plan, and it's necessary for every hunt. And I nerd out on that stuff. And that's probably why I enjoy hunting elk and mule deer, particularly on public land. Not that if a private land opportunity came my way, I would turn it down or anything like that. But my point is going in there and killing an animal, when you've put that plan together and that plan comes to fruition, there ain't much like it. And I think e-scouting is a very important part of that. And like I said, it comes down everything from just finding somewhere to camp to finding the elk, finding where water is, if there is a such thing as water anywhere near you. Are you going to have to go in the summertime and pack water in there? Instead of, having to camp 600 foot above the stream and walk down to water, 600 feet, maybe if you paid more attention on your e-scouting, you knew there was another stream that's 75 foot away, or whatever it may be. I just think, to me, your e-scouting is just a big way to not waste time. And again, it's something I enjoy doing.
Cole, so how do you, just kind of jumping on what Josh said, how do you deal with it being, the Flatlander from Texas and then coming out west and hitting Idaho, Montana, Colorado? How do you deal with that, and then how do you put it together through that e-scouting?
Man, a lot of it, and I think he brings up such a good point. Somebody that's coming out that's brand new, that's never even been to like national forest or something, like my very first trip out, I had no idea you could just pull up, and once national forest boundaries hit and you were in that boundary, you could pretty much make camp anywhere. And there wasn't anywhere you had to go pay or you had to go like sign in. Like, I'm used to Texas to where you can't go anywhere without paying or being in a state park and doing that. Whereas like when you go out to that national forest your first time, you can literally camp anywhere that it's safe and off the road as long as you're not blocking anything. Like, that's huge to know that you don't necessarily have to go where they have a camping symbol on onX, first and foremost. And some of these places, like on these roads that you're going in, you won't necessarily see some of these camps that are available, but there are a lot of room. There's a lot of area for you to go. So keep that in mind. Like, that's such a daunting thing when you first drive up and you see that giant 14,000 foot peak and you're like, I feel like I'm right here, but really you're still 5 miles from the base of it, from where you even start. And it just grows and grows and grows. And when you really start getting into it, you're like, dude, there's no way like I'm going to make it to that dot that I put on onX, right? Because you're learning how big the scale and everything is. So, all those things are something to keep in mind. But then again, it's real simple. Like, now, me being a 10-year vet, I can pretty much look on a map and dissect it and be like, okay, these are the areas I'm not going to go, and I'm not going to waste my time here. And then I go into the areas where I'm finding, or that I can tell that's nighttime areas for elk, right? Which is their feed areas. I look at those, and then I just start correlating where is it going to be safe for them, and then I start dropping pins all over that map. And sometimes it's 4 miles, sometimes it's a half a mile.
So how long does that take to pick up, right? I mean, just getting a handle on the contours on the map, right? You'll have, a pin drop here, you got pin drop B, pin drop C, you got these prospect areas, you get out into the field, coming from 1,000 miles away, say, and you look at it and you go, there ain't no way, right? Or you got a vertical there, right? So, how long does it take to dissect that, enough time in the field versus the map, and really understanding that?
I mean, it took me probably 3 good years before I realized, like, you're not going to walk in there just in an afternoon. It's going to take you, most of your first day or whatever it is, depending on where I'm going. Right. But yeah, I think it took me probably 3 years of hunting damn near the whole month, to realize the scale that I'm looking at on some of these images. And whenever, you're looking at satellite and stuff like that, like how deceiving it really is, and really it's just time in the field that kind of corrects that when you're looking at it on e-scouting and, some of those other places.
So I'm going to start this one with Tony and Garrett there. So Chasing Roosevelt Outdoors. Do you think that camping near elk affects their habits? It didn't affect us last year, but we're trying to decide camp close or farther out. See, hold on, before I do that. So if you guys are going to ask a question like that, define it, right? Are you camping on your pack? Are you spike camping? Are you bivvy camping? Are you base camping? Define that a little bit so we can answer that question a little bit better. But I'll let these boys, since that's a PNW guy, I'll let you guys take care of that for a sec here.
Go ahead, Garrett.
I camp very close to elk. Now, if my wind's blowing in there, no, that's a big no. But I've camped. I mean, we ran into elk within. We almost killed a bull within 30 yards of a camper one year. I have no idea where idea that guy was hunting, but I was literally 30 yards from the camper, and the bull was about 60 yards that way, and I was calling him in, and we didn't end up killing him. But those elk, if they feel like they're not threatened there, I mean, they're around people all the time that time of year. It's getting hammered. So don't camp where your wind's blowing in there and be a dingleberry, but you can camp pretty freaking close to elk, and they're not going to push out of there. Now, if you push them out of there, yeah, I mean, that's one thing, but my experience is you can camp. There's some guys that'll sit on elk overnight. So they'll camp right next to the herd. They'll bivvy in there and they'll just hunt them. One thing that I've done as well is if it's really pressured elk and they're not talking that much, I'm getting in as close as I can, as close, like if I can get within 100 yards, that's great. The thermals are super, super consistent that time of day, or actually technically night. And I'm trying to get in there, 2 hours before daylight. I'm getting as close to that herd as I can. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't, these Roosevelts, at least in my experience, they stay fairly close to home. They're not migrating very far. They've got a pretty close range that they stay within. And I'm the same way. I'll get up in there at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and that to me really isn't any different than you get your scent out there. It's no different than camping nearby. But I know guys that camp on landings over clear cuts, and they get up in the morning and the elk are feeding right down there in the clear cuts next to them, running back and forth the roads. Unless you're pushing them, it's so thick over here, at least where I hunt. Once they dive into that, they know they're safe, and they know how to get away from threats. So I don't think that's a problem, but I do think you need to be smart about it. If you're there for a longer period of time, I think they get wise to that. But just going in there, starting out, I don't think it affects their habits too much at all.
And I don't think it's just Rosie's where that is. I mean, same thing with the Rockies, man. I mean, it's anymore. These animals see people year round. I mean, between razors and hikers and bikers and campers, man, it's hard to get in a situation where these elk are not constantly smelling people anyway. So I don't think I know that elk aren't freaking out because of, human scent. I mean, all you got to do is take a look at everything that's videoed when you take a look at what's happening in Estes or any of the parks or in the cities and the towns around the houses. I mean, they're smelling humans all the time. That's not what freaks them out. What freaks them out is when all of a sudden they get snootful of a human that's in a close proximity that they shouldn't be smelling. It's like I equate their smell to our sound. When we hear something way off versus somebody goes, hey, right beside you, one's going to freak you out because it's right there and you didn't expect it. And it's the same thing, I believe, with the scent. We constantly have had success with people driving right by us. And, we killed one year 3 bulls within quarter mile of the biggest camping area in the hunt zone right there. And most people are leaving, going by us to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And the elk were extremely comfortable where they were at. And they let people drive right by them. And, so I don't know that, you got to be smart when you camp there, but you got to camp strategically. It's the same thing when I'm taking a look at a zone that we want to hunt, or a place that I know elk are in, or a place that I'm following them and they're in there. I want to be on them first thing in the morning. I'm just going to make sure that I've put myself in a predominant position where the wind is going to help me to be effective to get in close to them. So, yeah, I've even camped right off so that we wake up and look out the tent, man, to an area, and there they are. I mean, it's no different than a blind when you're in a tent, right? I mean, it just kind of holds that scent in. So
last year, second day of season, I'm sleeping. I got no sleep. I thought a bear was milling around camp, and what it was the herd heading down valley, and they bedded down about 70 yards behind where we were camped. I could have reached out and grabbed hooves from all the prints that were around my tent. They don't care and I agree with Joe. It's that. What's standing there? Oh, I smell it. I don't see it. I'm out. That's when they booger. So Tony, you said something, and then this is a big one for me. I'm a dark to dark guy, right? And you said sometimes I'm out there at 3 a.m. I want everybody to chime in terms of how important it is. We have 1 month that we wait 11 months for. We go crazy. Man, I'll be sitting somewhere glassing, I'll see a camp, and it'll be 10 in the morning. And guess what? Camp is full. Or 5 in the morning, gray lights just passing. I'm around the campfire. We're sitting there in our camos, having a cup of coffee, maybe with some Jameson in it. And it's like, that's part of the reason that the damn success rate is 10%. Right? How important is it to spend that time appropriately, right? And get out in the dark and get back in the dark, right? We're limited to this much time a year.
Yeah. I get out there that early, Guy, because I want to know where those elk are at. And like last year, I'd get back in there and I'd just throw out a locate bugle or maybe a cow call or something like that. And these bulls are bugling, but they're already on their way to bed, and it's way before daylight. So the reason I do that, and I know that it's challenging to get those bulls to change their direction because they've got one thing on their mind, and that's going to bed. It gives you that opportunity to figure out where they're headed, right? And start to pattern those bulls, because over here where I hunt on the coast here, it's thick and it's dense. And when they get down into that thick stuff, sometimes you can't even hear them bugle. So to try to figure out where they're going, to get in on them and try to get them bugling, late morning, early afternoon, and figure out where they're bedded so you can work down on them that way. That's important.
Jermaine, why don't you take it next, man?
No, I'm Tony, spot on. Whether it's Oregon, Utah, Idaho, doesn't really matter. If I can get out there as early as I can to kind of pinpoint where these bulls are going, and not that we're trying to pattern these bulls, because bulls and cows, the elk will change their patterns throughout the season. But what I will tell you is this, is if I can pinpoint where they're heading, then I know a location where they're going. So then I know, hey, they're bedding in this particular area. They may not bed in the same area. They may not feed in the same area, but it's within the location. And I want to really go back on like, excuse me. I really want to go back on like some of what was, man, I was shaking my head on some of the things that were said earlier. And it was spot on. Is you really have to do your due diligence early for the scouting part of things, because whether you're running trail cameras or whether you're, e-scouting, and then all this stuff kind of pays out ahead of season, because when you get out there and you throw your first location bugle in that first spot, things may change, man. Things may change, and you'll find out like, wow, I thought I got a lot of bulls on camera and I thought they'll be here. And next thing you know, they're not here. They're not here. But I'm with Tony on a lot of this stuff, because I gotta agree with him, because if I don't agree with him, we getting ready to go hunt together in September.
That's right.
I told you last time we talked, I was wondering how that was gonna go.
Yeah, no back rubs for you, buddy. No back rubs for you.
Hey, I gotta agree with him, because I might need a back rub later. So.
Jim, you've been pretty quiet, man. I got Batiste on the next question, but why don't you take a stab at this this dark to dark thing? What I did in the comments is I said it's elk season, it ain't vacation. People think you go to the elk woods.
My buddy Chris is in there saying you can catch up on your sleep in October, and he's right, man.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, I always kind of look at, there's 3 primary times to kill elk, and that's first light and what I've referred to midday madness and kind of that last light. Not saying you can't kill elk in the rest of the day, but if you're going to take rest while the sun is up, it's going to be between that first light time, like roughly, I don't know. I always kind of sit down for a minute around 9 o'clock for, take the socks off for a minute or whatever. But man, 10 o'clock hits, I'm rolling through about 1 or 2 o'clock. And then from that 2 o'clock to, I don't know, 3:30, 4 o'clock, maybe that's another time to sit down and have lunch or whatever. But from that point on, you want to use as much daylight as you can. I mean, like you said, don't F around, man. It's September. It only comes once a year. And hit it hard.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't get it.
Hey, man, I agree with him. Listen, mid-morning, midday madness, and at the end, right? Yeah, you can kill elk all throughout the day, but let's be truthful. Morning, midday madness, and at the end. That's when all the elk primarily get killed, right? We all know this. And if you ain't out there in the morning, if you ain't out there all day, and if you ain't out there in the evening, just they make a lot of sandwiches with these tags in there. They don't eat well.
So I'm gonna go to Mike, and then I'm gonna bounce to Joe, because I know Joe's gonna have this question from Ruben might drive Joe crazy, but so Randy asks, what type of cow call would you use at the start of a call sequence in the rut?
Just a basic cow sound. I mean, basically, I mean, anytime you start doing any type of vocalization routines, the cow sound is the best way to start, because 1, it gets the reed in your mouth, it gets saliva on it, it gets it kind of tuned up. But also 2, if you've got a bull that's close by, it's kind of like where Joe mentioned earlier, somebody saying something at a distance versus them saying something right next to you. And so that cow sound allows you to kind of get that sound out there a little bit, just in case something's close. And it's happened to us before where we've let go of a couple of soft cow calls and we've had a bull crack off less than 100 yards, and then we're scrambling to get set up. The opposite has happened too, where, we didn't do the cow sounds early on and just rip a good loud bugle because we want to ring this canyon. And then all of a sudden we get a response, and the next time we hear him, he's 700 yards away crossing state lines because we scared the ever living hell out of him. So start soft, tune the reed up. announce that there's an elk in the area in a non-threatening manner. It's more of a welcoming manner, and then go into your routine.
Sure.
Catch a lot more flies with sugar than you do with vinegar. That's all I'm saying.
You have something to say, Jermaine?
Yes, I do. I agree with him totally. And this is where, not to step on anybody's foot or anything. This is where I kind of start off things is you can always start off from the bottom and go and escalate up. And it's an elevator ride, right? So when you come into a situation, I'm coming in and all these seminars that I've done in the past, and I try to tell everybody how I would do it. And I start off with calf sounds, cow sounds, cow and calf communication. And then we can escalate into that location bugle. And if we don't start off at the bottom, you can never go down when you start off from the top. So if you come into, humanize this, if you come into a room, and I came in to a bar and Tony was sitting and having a beer, and I'm gonna use Tony as an example because I'm getting ready to have plenty of beers with him. But if Tony is sitting at the bar and he's having a beer and I don't know him from me, and I come in here and I start yelling at him, you know what he's gonna look back? He's gonna look back. He's gonna be like, you know what? This ain't cool. This bar ain't the bar I want to be at. He's gonna exit out the back door and he's gonna leave. Now, if I come in here with some ladies, Tony's gonna look for a little bit.
Hey, you're gonna get me in trouble.
Tony's gonna look for a little bit. And then he's gonna say, hey, bartender, another beer, please. And then he's gonna look a little more. And then it escalates from there. You have to start at the bottom and go from the top, because if I go in and start yelling, it's over. You cannot take that back. Now, granted, some bulls are angry for no reason, and they will respond to some of these responses. And we're talking about like 95% of these bulls, right? 95% of these bulls are responding like this. And I promise you, I think all of us can contest to this, is if you start off slow and then work up, then we're gonna get these bulls to come in. But if we come in and yelling in their bedroom, they're gonna be like, hell no, I'm cool with this. I'm gonna exit out the back door. I can avoid him, and I'm gonna steal his ladies.
So so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One thing though, Guy, man, I want to throw in, boss, is that everybody always thinks mew cow, and that's not always the case, man. So I think that mew, especially early season, can be bull or cow. And an early season mew like that, you got those bulls in a different mode. And I have taken bulls that all they did was mew when they were coming into me. So that mew can be a non-threatening bull out there that when those bulls are buddy are going to come in to check that out, man, like the new kid, or check out who that is, looking for pecking order, that type of thing. So it's not that, testosterone scream. It's not that bull scream. It's not something where they might recognize a voice. That mew is real hard for them to actually tag who that other bull is right there. And so it piques that interest, and it does a whole different thing. So it can be both male and female on that.
So when we talk about, just look at everything in life, right? Jermaine just said humanize it, right? It started from the bottom, now I'm here, right? It's a fucking song. But you're climbing up the ladder rungs, right? If you're working towards something, we always talk about that uphill or that uptick in all that, right? And just use the same thing. The one thing that no one mentioned, and I think is hugely important in that, is timing, right? Because you chirp, right? And then it drives me crazy, man. And it's just like, boom. It's like, no, settle down, listen to the woods, let the woods tell you what to do next, right? So what's Tony, you started nodding your head yes faster than anybody else. How should that timing look? How long should we be waiting and listening before we start to escalate?
Yeah. I always, just like others have said here, I always start out my sequence in the morning, especially early when it's dark out, with cow calls. I'll start out with mews. I'll do some little chirps. I might even use an external reed call, and I just sit there and listen. And it might be, 5 to 10 minutes might go by, and I just sit there and listen, because especially early in the season, my experience anyway is that they don't respond back right away like that. So I just sit there, listen for a little bit, maybe do another cow call if I don't hear anything. Then I might throw out a locate bugle, because that non-threatening call hasn't produced anything. So at that point, I don't have anything to lose, right? So I'm going to throw out a locate bugle, and a lot of times that will be enough to push them over the edge. And the other thing is, like I said, over here where I'm hunting, it's super dense. Those bugles carry a lot further and a lot longer than cow calls do. So that could be part of the reason they're not responding to those cow calls.
And then even with that locate bugle, I'm sorry, Michael, is, again, started from the bottom, now I'm here, right? Start off with that locate bugle, right? Put a little growl on the next one if you want to, right? Don't hit the bugle, don't hit a challenge bugle, or don't hit a locate and then just immediately start chuckling, right?
No.
Build up.
That's right. And my locate bugles usually start up at the high end. I don't go from the whole register from low to high or growl or anything. It's that high pitch squeal that they can hear for a long ways, and that's what I do.
Yeah, me too.
Michael,
so to really answer this question about what's the right pacing, and I don't think there really is one defined thing of saying this is the pace, because you need to be aware of your surroundings. If you're out there on a really quiet morning, you don't want to be sitting there throwing out tons of elk sounds, because nothing else in the forest is doing that. Now, if you hear a lot of vocalizations, then go ahead and match what you're hearing. So that's the key to the pace here. I mean, I don't know how many times have been out there on a quiet day, and I'm sure all of us have experienced this on public land, but it's a quiet day. You can't hear elk. There's not squirrels chirping. There's not birds singing. And then all of a sudden you hear that guy that's out there, and you're up on the mountain and you're looking up and down the canyon and go, is there freaking anything in this whole entire valley that's doing that besides you? So I mean,
oh man, that guy with the hoochie mama and the Terminator, I can see
it's just be aware of your surroundings and match what's going on around you, and that will tell you the pace that you need to be. Now, once you get a response and you're engaged, then again, you're still you're still gathering in that information of that engagement with that bull and how vocal is he, and that's again going to tell you what your pace needs to be. So
great
let
point,
them
Can I chime in on that one?
Go ahead.
Just real quick, Garrett and I, which by the way, I like this Tony guy. Tony, I've known you, man. I need to get you on the show. Anyway, Garrett and I had.
Look at he likes that beard. Yeah, you got to watch Junior.
The beard.
We both have. We have
beard.
a lot of wisdom in our beards, Tony.
That's right, man.
But
I rub it every now and then.
Hey, don't tell our secrets, man. Come on.
Garrett and I did a podcast a couple years ago, and we talked about woodsmanship. And when you take it from the angle of woodsmanship, and you're able to get into the woods, and you can kind of understand the nature of what is going on around you. Like Michael was talking about, are you hearing squirrels chirping? Are you hearing birds going crazy? Woodsmanship is knowing what is going on. Is everything silent? There's probably a reason. And sometimes I don't know if that's like barometric pressure, or there's a pack of wolves in the area, or maybe there's maybe somebody's already been through that drainage and blown it out. But take the temperature of the area you're in and learn some woodsmanship skills, learn to understand and be totally aware of your surroundings. You guys have been to like a party. There's always that drunk guy that has no like self-awareness of how obnoxious and loud he's being. That's how I relate it to somebody who just walks out.
Are you talking about
challenge bugling?
And that's me, bro.
Guy with no filter.
And so, yeah, no filter, you know. And so it's that woodsmanship aspect of it is super important, and that's how you could tell. You know, that bull I stuck last year, it was just little quiet chuckles, and we just had this little chuckle fest going on for about 100 yards until we made eye contact. And that's all it took. And so it's just, if I would have just ripped off this crazy bugle at this bull, he would have been in the next zip code. And so that's learning woodsmanship and taking the temperature of these animals because I promise you, those animals are in tune with each other. The elk are going to be in tune with the squirrels and the chipmunks and the other critters that are out there. And you just got to be aware of that. And I think that goes a long way. I think that's why a lot of tags don't get notched.
That's their home.
Hey,
100%.
Jojo,
Yeah.
you don't agree with that totally, though.
No, well, okay. You always got to be able to read the room, especially when you have people. If you're engaged with somebody in that room, you got to be able to tell what's happening with that. So in that sense, yeah, I do agree with that when you have engagement like that. But I'm that dude, man, that sometimes if that room is not happening, I create the room. You know what I mean? So
He's that guy.
it's one of those
Hey,
deals.
look,
Yeah.
not
So I can
everybody's
be
Joe
that
Julia.
obnoxious dude.
Not everybody's gonna have a house party now. Calm down.
Yeah, that's it, man. Look, it's like we are out there listening for that bull that's advertising that we're going to go to. We're out there listening for those multiple bulls that are screaming to know that there's a cow in heat out there. We're out there listening for elk to do elk things. And sometimes they just haven't quite got there sometime, to get that up. So there's times when I'm like, well, piss on it, man. If nobody else is going to have a party, I'm going to, and I'm going to invite somebody to come along. And it could be different ways. I mean, I could be that advertising bull working up a ridge. I could be that bull. And it's just, you still got to read the room. It's not like, I'm just out there just blowing stuff off. I have to paint a picture that is natural, that sounds like other elk. And so I have to kind of understand how that goes, or I can just be the friggin' drunk and see who comes in to kick my butt,
Joe, I think the difference between you and what a lot of guys do out there is, we talk about calling and we talk about the different sounds we can make with diaphragms. How many times have you heard that guy out in the woods and you can tell he's just moving out? He's making that same bugle every time.
Right. Yeah.
There are so many different sounds that elk make that a lot of hunters forget that they make. And I think the more you can sound, like a legitimate herd instead of that guy, I think that helps create that environment that you're talking about.
Well, you got to give it depth, man. I mean, you got to sell the story, and you don't give things depth by being that one sound that's just repetitive like that. You create and paint and layer so that it gives it that realism, and it is actually so much fun. And that's the thing is I think so many people get so stuck in wanting to hear an animal and judging, whether or not they're going to be successful, because they're talking. I mean, I hear people all the time going, well, they're just not talking. They're just not talking, right?
Find them.
Well, there's so many other ways to get a response or to get an animal to come into you. So sometimes that is, you create that environment that is going to be elk doing elk things that are going to bring them to you. Yeah. So, I'm totally agreement when you're doing things out there and you have an elk engage with you, or you're coming into elk that are being vocal. You just don't. And I've done it. I've blown it out there where I've snuck all the way in and I'm right on a group like that with a cow that never announced itself, that had never been heard, and these animals are quiet. They're sitting there and I go in and throw something out, 30 yards from them thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to get that bull to run over here and just blow everything the heck up. Right. Yeah. Because that was not natural. It wasn't, that cow didn't announce itself coming in. So yeah, there's ways that you can just friggin' blow it up, but there's ways that you can actually just have some fun with it and have critters come to you too. And I happen to really enjoy that, man. I mean, just feeling it and actually getting ruddy and actually getting sweet and creating that herd environment for that curiosity, because you've got 3 bulls down there that you can see that could care less about other things that are happening at a bull screaming at him. But when he hears a herd up there, he's like, oh, well, let's go see, what's going on. So, yeah.
Yeah. But
So Joe,
since Joe,
go ahead.
what you're doing, Joe, just to like describe it to everybody, this is a massive buildup. It's not something that happens over a 5-minute span. This is you're sitting down, and nothing's going on during the day whenever those noises are being made. This is something that you're basically doing a cold call setup, and it's a build up to where you're blasting all those calls, right? Because you're building that party. It didn't just start out to where you guys flip the switch and everybody's drunk and partying and doing shots and screaming and the girls are taking their top. There's none of that. It was a progression.
Nope, there's none of that in the Oakwoods.
Well, and it's not always a cold call. I might have some critters over there that are on the other side of a fence or on private property, and I'll do things actually where I'm moving away from them, just like another 100%. Bull, might be doing with his herd moving away. And there's little things that I do back and forth, like bringing a lost cow back so that it's kind of a low-hanging piece of fruit, just having fun with it. So, but Cole's exactly right. You have to paint the picture. It's not something that you just start and in 5 minutes it happens. You've got to introduce it.
So, Joe,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Here's one thing, like the guy's question about what kind of cow call would you use? Well, just a typical cow call, right? But it's what we do with the response that we get, and that's where you go from. If
Amen.
You get a response off of that cow call and you bugle back at that bull, you just screwed your scenario, because that bull's response immediately invited you over to his situation, right? And then you want to, like, just because you want that bugle fest, maybe you throw that bugle in there. Give that bull what he responded to you. If he didn't ever respond to a cow call and then you locate bugle and he responds, he probably is either telling you a couple things, either to come over and let's tickle horns, or you need to stay away. And I think a lot of guys kind of get that screwed up there and how to judge that bull.
Garrett, what's the percentage of the time you're in the woods that you get a bugle fest?
Not very often.
Less than 1%. Would everyone agree with that?
Yeah, it's pretty rare. I do want to piggyback off of Joe and Tony, because I think there's a big element that these guys could not agree more. And there's a lot of really good nuggets being dropped right now by those two guys and Cole as well. But for a call setup, I mean, if you're going into there thinking, what kind of cow call am I making? You got the wrong mindset, because you should be saying, what is my plan? Like what scenario? And Joe, I think his philosophy is perfect. What picture am I painting here? Because am I just one cow? Am I 2 cows? Am I a bull? Am I a transient bull? Am I a herd? But what am I doing here? And there's more dimensions than just cow call and bugle. So what I started doing a lot last year, and I went through 2 5-point sheds, and I was carrying those around the woods with me because it's short hikes. It's the coast, and before I'm even calling, I am smashing brush. I am raking trees. I am setting a picture that, hey, before I even say, hey, I want them to hear me stomping around. I want to set the tone, and I want to build that picture in my mind. Like, it's not a deer. It could be a bear. Maybe it's probably elk. When you hear something in the woods, people do the same thing. I'm like, that's definitely not a deer. Could be an elk, could be a bear, or whatever. But elk, I think, are doing the same thing. If they hear brush popping and they hear something moving in the woods, every animal has its own kind of sound, and you need to build that pre-sound up, I guess, of what you could call it, where if you don't even have a call in your pocket. I called in multiple bulls last year with stomping twigs, breaking branches, and raking trees with a rack. And I broke. Absolutely. I am hitting these trees so freaking hard. I'm breaking tines off of them. So I am getting it out there, and I am a bull. I am an elk. And you have to put yourself in that mind to where I'm not a hunter trying to call something in. No, I am a freaking herd. I am a bull. And if you have a partner who's calling as well, and you have a shooter, good God, you guys can sound so realistic out there that if you're not 20, 30, 40 yards apart, and just like Joe said, you got to move around, even move away from the bull. We're always obsessed with moving into the herd. If
Absolutely.
you move away from a bull, he could very well come right into your shooting lane just to see, well, where did he go? Like, that's what we're always doing, right? They'll do the same stuff. So don't be afraid to add different dimensions. And again, the original question is, I wait a few minutes and I usually get my bugles on the second one back. It's usually a double bugle. So
if they're deer, right?
What was that?
If they're deer.
Yeah. If they're deer?
If they're there.
Oh, if they're there. Yeah. If they're there, it's usually on the second bugle. And my theory is like, you'd ever be out in the woods. I'm like, I think I just heard a bugle. And you guys are waiting around, looking around. And then maybe a bull might go back to feeding. And then that second one pops up. Yep, there he is. And
there
then
it is.
Usually what happens is that you guys are pointing in different directions. And then like, no, it was over here. But
Garrett, that happens a lot.
I don't want to miss that, Garrett. Explain your double bugle, because I want to know if that's what that's actually one of my techniques. So I'm interested in your double bugle thing that you're talking about.
So I'm hitting a extremely high pitched, extremely elongated bugle, because I think that higher pitch breaks through the brush better. I can span my bugle, just like I'm just basically going like this with a bugle, and I'm getting bulls farther than I've ever had them. I'm getting bulls in the coast busting off a bugle at 1,200 yards away, which is insane for the coast. And long story short, I'll bugle, I'll wait 2, 3, 4 minutes. Might toss a cow call out there, but if you're bugling and then you're cow calling and you're chuckling afterwards, you're probably, if that bull immediately responds, you're not going to hear it because you're bugling. So you need to wait a few minutes, maybe toss in a cow chirp or something if you get bored. But I'm waiting, it might be 5 minutes before I bugle again, but I'm hitting him with that second bugle, because where if he picks his head up, maybe it's a minute, like if I feel like I know there's a bull in there and I'm confident, it could be anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes before I bugle again.
Yeah, I knew what Joe was going to ask about that. That's not Joe's double bugle. Joe's double bugle is a double bugle, like
yeah,
he's two bulls at once. But that man's lungs are ridiculous. It's stupid.
So Joe,
go ahead, Tone.
Well, I got a question for you, and I mean I've got an opinion about this, but I'm curious from the group here. When we're talking about creating that environment that you spoke of earlier, does that depend on the time of day? Because how many times after those bulls go to bed, all they do is let out maybe a little lazy moan or bugle, and that's it. I mean, things are not fired up, right? So to me, I'm matching that intensity. When I go in there and I'm close, I know I'm close to them, I start to do, some moans and maybe some panning and something that is more like a bull that's probably in bed, like the bull you're trying to get to respond to you. Is that?
No, I mean, I'm actually a real low vocalization type person, because it's like my double bugle. I'm going to throw that into the same thing, because I do a double bugle, but it's actually, I go up, and as I'm coming down, I go right back with another scream.
Yeah, that's my
and the reason I do that is I want other bulls out there to hear 2 other bulls engaged, right? And when they hear those bulls doing it like that, it actually sounds like a bull with a hot cow, possibly, or they're engaged, and they're more apt to pop off and go, "Hey, I'm over here." I get a lot more reactions with that double bugle than I do with a single bugle. But to your question that you're saying, it is exactly that. I like the lower vocalizations, and just like Garrett was talking about, man, the raking, the stomps, the breaking, because now you are a critter. You're a bull out there that can't be identified, right? They don't know how big you are. You're not given any presence, but they know it's another bull out there. And it doesn't, in that midday thing, you get a chance to start off with something quiet. That bull that's either in a bed bugle situation, or that bull that's just breathing, that is huff, and do that kind of stuff, but working into that, like you said, man, because again, that reality of painting that picture, what's happening? Oh, it's hot, man. They're in the bed that day. They've been laying down, they've been resting, but now, man, something might be happening that, they're catching a scent, or, they're starting to get a little riled, or I'm off of your herd and I catch your cows up there. I know you're bedded right there, and I'm going to let them know, hey, I'm over here, but I'm not going to do anything that is basically announcing voice wise and going up like I'm at the top of my peak. Yeah, I think us as guys, I think we're just in such a hurry to rush things all the time. I mean, it's like we want to go from 0 to 100 instead of layer and paint and create that tease, man, that's going to get it to happen. You know,
Patience.
so
Patience.
yeah, patience, a
All right,
lot
let
of
me-
patience, because
Yeah.
you know, that's like, you know, we always laugh and joke about the mafia dudes, man, that, you know, when they end up with elk on top of them, is they've been going through and they're maybe being a herd as they're going through the hills, they're doing the cow calls, they're doing, you know, the thing, announcing that group going through. One of them stops to take a dump, and next thing you know, they got elk on top of them. They think it's their magical dump that does it, when it's not. They actually slowed down and stopped for a minute and let the elk do what elk do in their time and catch up, actually. So yeah, I think that patience, and I think remembering that you're in the woods and it works in elk time and not in our time, you know, and just sometimes just stopping and listening, like Tony said in the morning when he does those calls. You just stop and listen to the woods. What's going on, man? Have some patience with that, right?
Go ahead, Jermaine, and then we'll jump into it. We got quite a few questions.
Yeah, I know that it's gonna be a bunch of different questions, but for the whole group, let's just go around the circle and let's answer this, because my philosophy is a lot different than everybody else's philosophy. So we'll start out with Jim. The question is early season September. What is your go-to calls, and what is your philosophy going into a season? And we'll start off with Jim, but then we'll just go around the circle, and we'll circle back. But Jim, hold on. When you get into, you know where you want to go. You're gonna go in there. What sounds, and then where are you taking this? You got 1 minute.
Oh,
Yeah,
I got 1 minute. What is this? Like a
got 1 minute.
By Jermaine Hodge.
I like the stipulation, actually. No, man. I'll be honest with you. Not a lot changes for me from August 30th to September 30th. I go in and I'm a little bit. I'm in search mode. You know, I'm hunting a lot of areas where I know where the elk are going to be. I already know where they're going to be, and you guys that are on this have been a lot more successful than me. So you can tell me if I'm off base, but I am there is not a lot that changes. I go in and I've had a lot of success this first week, because these elk, they're still in that mode where they're trying to determine who's king of the mountain. And that pecking order hasn't been determined yet. And so they get real curious off a couple of mews. They get real curious off a couple of locate bugles, just going out there and sounding elky. And so that's what I do. I put a lot of miles in, and I'm just throwing out locator bugles until I get a response. And when I get that response, the focus changes. I go completely quiet at that point, and I close the distance, and I try to locate that bull at that point. But interestingly, I'm doing that on September 15th, and I'm doing that on September 30th. That's usually because I don't tag out and I'm still chasing bull elk. So that's what I do.
Joe, yeah, you next. This is what I'm just going off my screen. Joe, you next.
Yeah. So early season, man, I'm still, I know that bulls are looking for other bulls when it's early like that. I know young bulls are looking for cows. I know that older bulls are shadowing those younger bulls that are pulling those cows. I know that's happening. I'm still mew oriented when I'm starting out. I'm always starting that, because I don't think it's always a cow sound. Like I said, I have had bulls there. I like some low invitational type chuckles types things. I like to do that. And I am really huge on raking and doing those kind of vocalizations that aren't the same old rodeo, man. And that's pretty much that early season like that. And then if elk are not lit up, then I get lit. and I try to start something or attract something that's going to bring it to me.
I already know, man. Listen,
Jermaine,
you are the frat party.
Jermaine, go to Batiste, and then we're going to roll into some questions.
Batiste, let's go. Let's roll.
So basically, I mean, I've got a destination where I want to get to. You know, I've done my homework. I know where the elk are going to go, and so you know, my intent is get from point A to point B. Point B is on the fringes of their bedding area. I'm locating as I'm moving, but once I get to that spot, I'm a breeding sequence guy. I like telling a story of the breeding sequence of a bull with a hot cow. It doesn't matter if it's August 30th or September 30th. Now, that first time of that early in the year, I'm going to stay on the smaller bull register because, like Joe said, the larger bulls are shadowing because a lot of times those younger bulls are the one that go and loop up the cows. Then that big boy comes in, whoops his ass once, then he has the herd. So early in the year, I want to stay as a smaller bull. Like I've got a hot cow that came in early. And man, it gives, I remember afternoon of day one last year, I'm doing this in the evening and all of a sudden I look up and here's a bachelor group of 4 bulls, single file that are flat out trotting down the ridge, picking through the trees right to us. And I just, it's telling that story. And just like you talked earlier, I don't jump right into it full tilt. I start slow, build it up. It's just like building a fire at camp. You don't throw full rounds on from the get-go. You start small, build that flame, let it go. You're doing that same thing with the breeding sequence. And that's kind of my go-to approach is I love the breeding sequence.
So I love that, man.
Walk. Ruben Caballero, I was going to give this to Joe, but Ruben's going to get a text from me and get some guff. It says, I've regretted not going after something just because you know it was about to get dark. We all know those last few minutes of light can be magical. Any words of advice? There you go.
There's a reason they make headlamps.
That's a great point.
We said it. Go ahead, Walk. I'll let you go, and then I'll say what I got to say to Ruben.
Yeah, so is he asking any words of advice for being able to stay out there longer? I don't really.
I'm thinking, you know, he's asking, should I stay or should I go? Right.
Yeah, I mean, you need to stay until you can't see anymore. I mean, and you know, we talked about this earlier. It comes down to how much that shit means to you. Excuse my language, but you know, September is a very finite amount of time. So, you know, if you're not a dark to dark guy, you got to ask yourself how much it means to you. And it doesn't have to mean the world to you to go out and hunt elk. But for the guys that it does mean the world, why would you not do everything you can to try to put yourself in elk? And, you know, some of the best hunting hours, like we've already discussed, are going to be the first light, middle of the day, and the last light. So why would you not be in your hunting area until you can't see anymore, right? To me, that just doesn't make any sense. And then something that Joe said earlier that really resonated with me, he said that some guys like to bugle and just to hear the elk, right? And that, again, it's been rolling in my head this whole time. Some guys, you hear them bugle, the bull responds. They bugle, the bull responds. Bugle, bull responds. And they do that until the bull stops making any noise. And it's like, why not, especially if we're in a bugle fest like we were talking about, why not take that advantage and start easing towards them and not make a sound? I just don't understand why when you got the elk already talking, why you wouldn't start to make your move on them and get closer before you start to make any vocalizations, because in my short experience, I find that they react better when you get in the quote unquote bubble, right? So, you know, you get guys, as soon as they get a response, they get set up and they're trying to pull that bull 1,000 yards on September 2nd.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes, right? But to me, if I go out and I throw a locator bugle and he responds and he goes off on his own sequence, you know how they'll do, they'll bugle. And then a couple seconds will go by, they'll bugle again. Well, I'm going to take that time. I'm going to ease a little bit closer. I may not make another sound until I feel like I don't know where he's at anymore. And to me, that goes back to what Joe was saying about some people like to just hear those elk bugle. But I kind of got off on a rabbit hole there. As far as, you know, what could help you stay out there longer at night? I mean, you just got to want to kill a bull or a cow, whatever it is. I mean, I don't see the difference in the daylight and the dark. It's all the same thing. Take your flashlight out there and walk back to your tent. I don't really know how to answer that question.
Yeah, dark to GD dark. So let's see here. Chris McKelvey asked, night bugling from a ridge. How close is too close if the thermals and wind are going from me to them when they can smell you, That's simple as hell.
Don't
I'm
do
telling
it.
you,
Don't
I'm
do it.
telling you, I'm gonna take my puffer out and I'm gonna check my wind, and then we're gonna go from there.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. What type? We got that
Well,
one.
and
Go ahead,
let's
Joseph.
give something to Chris's credit too, is that just because thermals aren't always doing the same thing in areas. I mean, you could be in one place where the thermals are doing one thing, and because the sunlight is doing something where it's going, there's a bottom down below you where it's pulling, and it's going up on the other side where it's sunlit and it's pushing up. You know, you've got thermals that'll do different things in different places. So, and you can have a predominant wind that can bend that thermal as well. So just because the
Joe.
thermals aren't right. Yeah.
Joe, I totally agree with you. And this is where it comes with like e-scouting and paying attention to like what everything's going on. So if the sun is hitting on my side and it's
Right.
blowing up here and there's a shadow on the other side, it's probably pulling down on the other side. You guys have to know this stuff. Now we're sitting on a podcast and we're talking and we're conversating, but the honest truth is that we've learned from many failures, from our failures, and we're trying to cut the learning curve down for you guys. Now, what I will tell you is this: if that sun is hitting on my side and that wind, I put that little wind puffer up, and that wind puffer is blowing up on my side, it's probably because the thermals are blowing up on my side. As we get down in that drainage, it could be going anyway. But as we get on the other side and that sun's hitting that other side, it could be doing a lot of different things other than what we wanted to do on that other side. We on one side is not the same on the other side.
No, but this guy was asking a question about night
Night.
bugling, and
Yeah.
and you know my answer to that is, if you get a bull to respond, you're out night bugling, you get a bull to respond, especially if you know the thermals are headed down to where he's at, get the
Right.
heck out of there.
Yeah.
You've already located him. You know where he's
Right.
at. Get out of there. Come back the next morning. Don't mess with it. Don't play that game and call back and forth, because you're not going to do any good, right? You
Yeah,
can't
good
kill him
point.
at night
Yeah,
anyway.
you blow him out. You
Excellent
don't know
point.
where he's at after you blow
Yep.
him out of there. That's perfect.
Agreed.
Yeah, don't
So
camp in the
McKelvey,
same canyon.
yeah, McKelvey asked. He said a little more info on my question. I access the area coming over a ridge. From there, I can stay on the ridge and go either direction and cast down into 4 to 6 areas that all look awesome.
So is he night bugling in the morning or is he night bugling at night? You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
is he in the
Mhm.
dark in the morning? If he's in the dark in the morning
That's
and
a
he's getting a
different-
response, yeah,
Right.
then he's actually planning his plan of attack and he's trying
Yeah,
to figure out
that's
what he's going to do
different.
from there, right? So
Good
if
point.
he's doing that, he's got to pay attention. Okay, where's the wind coming from? You know, what is that? It's just like currents in the water. You know, that wind is going to do stuff with those thermals as well. If I have a bull directly down below me, but I've got a cheek breeze that's happening right here, well, it's going to kind of throw it. But, you know, what happens is that cheek breeze up on the top of that ridge becomes dead when you start to get on the side of that ridge, and then things start falling straight down. So you got to understand how things work in the mountains as well.
I was going to say, I think there's a lot of emphasis placed on just thermals, right? And that's a lot of the wind talk that we have is based on thermals, but there's so much more to. I mean, you got your predominant wind, you know, I mean, your dynamics with, like Joe's saying, with the contours. If you're in a park and it's getting sun, the fringe of that is full shade. That's a different wind in there, right? You hit
Sure.
that puffer, man, you'll watch it rise 5 feet away from you, and everything past it is whipping, you know, to the west, just for having
Man, I
direction.
wish I had thermals over here on the coast where I hunt.
But that's a perfect example of why I think
It
thermals
is.
are overrated, right? You know, I'm
Yep.
not to say they're overrated and they're not important, but it's overrated because that's the primary conversation. Do you guys hunt differently with a full moon or just keep the same tactic you've been using?
I call more at night if it's a full moon, man. I mean, I love the full moon because those critters are comfortable out there. They're rutting, they're screaming. It's a great time to get out there and really locate and to get on them, you know. And what we were talking about before, now I'm actually could sit on them at night and be on them at first light when they're doing that. So whether you have a full moon or you have a dark moon, it doesn't matter. If that's the time that you're hunting and that's the time that you have to hunt, you take advantage of what you have and you do the best with what you got.
But Batiste, on that question, does your tactic change, or you start out a little bit earlier? Do you try and cover more ground? What's the timing of the elk since they're out later in that full moon? Are they bedding early, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so full moon, I'm getting usually I'm getting up 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going fishing. I'm doing night bugles, and now mind you, we base camp in a truck to where we can hit miles. We can cover a lot of ground, and so that's what we're doing is we're getting up 2:30, 3 o'clock, packs ready. We're going night bugle, and we're going fishing. As soon as we get a response, we're pulling over, parking, packs are on, and we're working towards that bugle, because understanding elk behavior, that during full moon nights, they're a lot more active on a full moon night, dark, not necessarily just a full moon. Let's call it a bright moon night. It could be a half a moon, 3/4, it could be full, just a bright moon night. They're a lot more active at night than what they are on a dark night, which means they're going to head to bed earlier. So I want to be within striking distance as soon as I get legal shooting light. So I'm not I'm not bugling at them. I'm basically moving towards them and listening. I'm not making any more sound. I want to be within striking distance so that I can maximize knowing that they're going to go to bed early, and I want to be right there so that I can take advantage of that and have that shorter window. But I also know too, because they're going to bed earlier, they're going to get up during the midday, and there's a lot more activity midday during a bright moon night. So really for me that morning, if I get a shot opportunity in that short window, that's great. But really my game plan is I'm looking more towards that midday when they're really up on the hoof and really a lot more active during that midday because of that bright moon night. And so I'm really kind of, like I said, if I get a shot opportunity, great. If not, I'm working with them towards their bedding area, being right on that fringe. And so that way I'm ready as soon as they get up during that midday, and I'm going to take advantage of that longer window midday. And a lot of times I'm laughing because, like you said earlier, I know there's guys back at camp there's so many people that as soon as it's a bright moon, they're like, well, this sucks. I only have an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening, and the rest of the day we're going to sit in camp and play cards and drink.
Right.
Thank you very much for not being out there lulling on your Primos Terminator and screwing it up for the rest of us that are out there during midday.
So Jermaine, it's come up a couple times. Walk brought it up, talked about the bubble. Batiste said striking distance. How do you judge that? How do you know when you are in that bubble, that red zone? How do you hear, because you got ears, man, you hear a bugle that's 1,300 yards off and you start working towards that bugle, how do you know that, boom, this is it, since we did that creep in?
Well, hold on, I'll answer your question in a minute, Guy. I'm with him on this. Listen, this like midday madness, I really don't participate in the midday madness. But what I will tell you is this, is you have that full moon phase. Everybody's talking about, I want to hunt the darkest part of the month. And I do the same thing, and I love that stuff. I want to hunt the darkest part of the months because they're more active during the daytimes. But in reality is during the rut of September, they're always active. It does not really matter. So I'm with you. Is if there's a full moon, I'm out all day. Especially if I have bugles. Now, for those, go ahead, Guy, repeat that question, and I'm going to answer it right now.
Okay, so Walk brought up the bubble. Joe said, or Batiste said, when we get into striking distance, right? So we hear a bugle that's 500 yards, 1,200 yards off, right? How do we know when we're in that bubble? How do we know when to start that calling sequence and putting a little pressure? How do we know and understand where that bubble is?
It goes back off to this. Let me say this, and we kind of said this at the very beginning, is you threw out a cow sound and that bull bugled. Why change anything? Why would we change?
Pause for 1 second. So Brother Garrett has a obligation to mama. September's coming, so he's paying his honeydews. Mr. Weaver, best of luck, my brother, this season. It's always a
Heck yeah,
pleasure, man,
Garrett.
having you on.
Hey,
Love you to
Good to meet
death,
you,
man.
Garrett.
I
Good
appreciate
meeting
you
you,
guys.
Pleasure, man.
absolutely.
Dude,
Yeah.
Garrett,
Mhm.
I'll be
We'll
reaching
miss
out
you.
to some of you guys for podcasts as well. I was honored being on this panel with you guys. So
Good to see you.
Oh,
Good to see you,
it
Garrett.
was an honor to have you on it, man.
We'll see you,
Good
brother.
meeting you, Garrett. Take her easy,
Yeah.
buddy.
Likewise.
All right, sorry, Jermaine.
So what were you saying? I
You were
apologize.
saying, I wasn't saying. You're the co-host, man. Keep your shit together.
You were saying the question. You were asking the question.
The bubble. So you were
Bubble,
telling
the
us about
striking
that bubble.
distance.
How do
How
we
close?
how do we judge that red zone?
So listen, it goes back to kind of what we already said in the podcast is you went out, you went on this hill and you threw out a cow sound, and they threw out a location bugle. That bull located back. And it's hard for humans and humanize all this stuff, right? You have to humanize all this stuff. It's hard for us to sit back and all we want to hear all year long is a bugle. And he bugles back. Woo! It's hard for us to say, fuck this. I'm gonna bugle back. Woo! Well, stop. He bugled off your cow and calf sounds. Why did you bugle back? Time out, man. You're escalating a party that's already started. You already had a cow and calf sound, and he sounded off. Now, we moved in his location with a cow and calf sound. We did not do a location bugle. We moved in his location, and we cut the ground on him. Now, what do? Cow and calf sounds. We cow and calf sounds. We locate him. We think he's 150 yards. He's within the bubble. He doesn't sound off. We just did this 700 yards away. He sounded off. He did not sound off. And we're in 150 yards away. Okay. We bring the tempo up. He sounds off with a mature cow sound. Now we know that he's in this bubble. Don't change a damn thing. Why would you change this? He's in the bubble and he sounded off with a mature cow sound. I'm not changing goddamn thing. Now, if I'm by myself and I'm a solo hunter, a mature cow sound, he sounds off. I'm in that 150-yard bubble. Then I'm going to move my location about 30 to 40 yards because they know where the fuck you are. And then I'm set up and I'm waiting and I'm looking. Now, if I'm with a Tony that sounds so fucking good and convincing, then I'm going to tell him to fade back about 80 yards and sound like a fucking herd. And then I'm going to move in and make this happen. But you got to understand this, is that it's whatever you said that made him answer, stay with this shit. Why would you change anything that you're doing in this sequence? He answered to a cow and a calf sound. Stay with a cow and calf sound.
Right. Thank you. So we got Evan Brannick, Making Tracks Outdoors. I use a wheelchair when I'm hunting, and I've got an Eastern Oregon archery tag with a few buddies. Are there any tips to get them interested in closing the distance? Who wants to take a stab at that one, right? So,
I'll take a stab at it. I'll take a stab at it.
Go ahead. You go first, Jermaine.
Go ahead, Jim.
I'm getting a kick out of you tonight.
We're going to have to put time limits on Jermaine.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jimbo.
Hey, listen, my buddy's in a wheelchair. I don't know if he can use a diaphragm or not, but I can tell you right now, these open reads, money, son, money.
Evan's been working his butt off. I follow him on Instagram. He and I podcasted some time back.
So does he know how to use a diaphragm?
I know he's been working on it. He's been on his shooting a lot, and I'm sure he has callers.
So I can tell you, man, I cut my teeth on open reeds. I used to use these open reeds a lot. And I'm gonna tell you, hey, listen, sometimes you can make the sweetest sounds, and these calf sounds and cow sounds with those open reeds sound so nasally and realistic. It's unbelievable what you can do with them. So what I would tell him is sit back in your wheelchair, brother, break open these open reeds and bring that one into your chair. Go ahead, Jim.
Go ahead,
sorry.
Jimbo.
No, you're good, man. I think so. With the wheelchair scenario, that's going to be super regionally dependent. Like in my neck of the woods, if you're hunting North Idaho or Western Montana or somewhere, we have, when you get up out on these Forest Service roads, we have all these closed for motorized vehicle old logging roads. And these logging roads will go for miles, but you don't have to go miles. If you park at the gate kind of scenario, and I imagine it's like this in a lot of heavily wooded areas, if you park at that gate, you literally can go less than 100 yards. And especially if you have somebody to help you get back there, but these roads are like in my neck of the woods, they're not bad. You can get back there on a wheelchair. And if you get to that point where you're getting, I'll put it to you this way. I have a lot of people that on our local like groups up here on like Facebook or whatever, they'll ask, why am I not hearing bugles? Why am I not hearing bugles? I'll tell you why. Because you're on a dirt road, on a used dirt road that you're bugling from, and the elk know where that's at. If you got 50 to 100 yards off of that road on one of these closed logging roads, they're heavily used trails that these elk go up and down. And what you want to do is you want to get yourself in a position where, you know, just by looking at Onyx or Google Earth or whatever the case is, you could find areas that make sense for elk to be feeding at night and rutting at night. And then at first light, those elk are going to be moving up that mountain. And if you cut them off mid-slope on one of those logging roads that's wheelchair accessible, especially if you had help, man, if you're in my neck of the woods, I'll help you. But any of those access points where we can get you in there on a wheelchair road and cut off those elk when they're heading up to mid-slope to bed for the day, they're looking for those benches. They're looking for those north face slopes. That's the key. It's totally doable. And like I said, if you're in North Idaho, man, hit me up. I'll help you get there. We can
Cole,
make it happen.
Cole, so you helped Chav and Joe out, you know, when Chav was recovering in his first year back. So how did that look? Evan, you know, so Chav had cancer. He had some issues where he had tumors on his spine and basically his nerves and everything. He couldn't walk. Cole, why don't you talk about that and how you helped facilitate that hunt, and then maybe that'll give Evan a little bit of an understanding too, because I believe I've heard it a million times. Chav saw more bulls on that hunt than anybody in the group.
Well, in a time of day than most people hear it. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cole.
Yeah, well, I was going to say a lot of that had to do with Joe doing some scouting and being able to see where's a good location where these animals can come and frequent a spot. And not only that we can be able to get Chav in and out of without it just completely wrecking Chav, you know. And really it's opened my eyes a lot too about the way I hunt some of this country now, because there are so many opportunities for guys with wheelchairs or even right off a road. I mean, I killed my bull in Idaho in the worst unit in Idaho this year, and it was literally right off the road. It was a half a mile the bull laid. And totally could have probably called that bull up to that road. And matter of fact, later that week, Joel and I had an opportunity literally right off of the road. You just got to find those little areas that are overlooked, and people are just like, it's almost like when you first get into a public land piece, everybody's hauling ass to get 5 or 6 miles back on those roads, and those elk are conditioned to that. And if you just pay attention to those little details and those little closed roads, like what Jim was talking about, those elk are like, they're it's like, yeah, we're used to all this traffic because everybody does this every weekend or whatever, and they blow right past where a lot of the resident elk have just become conditioned, you know, to everybody that's going by. So pay attention to those little areas that it might just be a half a mile inside of the public land, but you would be surprised at how many animals know that nobody's stopping there. And that would be a great location. And it's kind of similar how we set Chav up. You know, it was an overlooked area, and it was a big wallow. And I mean, it was like clockwork, 9:30, 10 o'clock, whenever all the traffic came out of the mountains and went back to their camp. Guess who came to the wallow midday? All of the elk, because they heard everybody disperse from the woods. So, you know, those elk, they're smart and they know that. So key into those little areas.
Guy, here's something else to think about. You said he's hunting Eastern Oregon and he has some guys with him, right?
Yes, sir.
So growing up in Eastern Oregon, I know what a lot of those farmers and ranchers are like. Don't be afraid to go knock on the door and talk to some of these ranchers, because he may get access to an alfalfa field or a pond, you know, and that rancher all of a sudden is like, hey, yeah, here's a gate you guys can go through. You can set a ground blind right here. They come and hit this pond every night at 6 o'clock. He can go and sit in that ground blind. He can still do some light calling, you know, make it appear that there is something down on that water, but that gives him another accessible possibility that now he's not trying to compete with everybody else on public land. And it could be, hey, you know what, maybe if you let me do this, maybe I can mend a little bit of fence for you, or there's something that he can do around to pay that farmer or rancher back for giving him access to his property. But there's great people in Eastern Oregon that most definitely could give him that access. So that's just another wrinkle, something else to think about out over there.
So, hey, Guy,
yes,
Guy, before we go any further, listen, here in Colorado, you gotta, you know, I'm just speaking for Colorado. Of course, we're talking about Oregon, but listen, there's a lot of great people out there that are landowners that will do that stuff for you. They will say, you know what? He willed himself up here to talk to me in his wheelchair. Why not? Why not give him the opportunity? Because I could be honest with you, if I had 15 to 20,000 acres, whatever it may be, and
you'd be my best friend. Shit, you'd be the host, not the co-host.
And someone came up with me, came up to
rubs, whatever.
I know you guys. I'd be like, yo, this guy's a fake. You know, but the truth ain't be told. Exactly. You said, hey, listen, you know, I'd love to hunt your land. Dude, you know how many people that want that opportunity? And we're talking about just someone that's in a wheelchair. How about the veterans that are out there? How about everybody else that's out there that's going through all these hardships? Dude, if I was a big landowner, I would love for that opportunity for say, you know what? Can I sit with you? Can I sit with you and conversate with you before you kill your animal? That's awesome. And people need to understand is, listen, don't be scared of no. Because we've been told all of our lives, no. And then when that opportunity comes around, it says yes, then you're successful.
And the
understand
bulls know all the damn time.
Bulls always tell us no.
So
the bulls always tell us no.
I didn't want to miss it. It was asked a while ago, talking about the bull mew, and I believe it was Jason Roosevelt's asked if it was the same as a cow mew, or how can you distinguish the difference?
It's identical. So I have there is by my place this domesticated elk farm. And if you show up there and bring a bag of carrots, you can sit there and feed these elk right through the fence, you know, and these are monster, like 350 class bulls sitting on this private land, you know, and
when you
pull those
shoot the 350, we know where it came
from. Huntsman's got him tied up.
You're gonna know where I got it. It's gonna be like 3 in the morning. 350 at 3 in the morning. That's what I'm saying.
So Albert Guy asked, at what wind speed do thermals start to get affected? Who the hell has the answer to that one?
Well, there's a big difference between a thermal and a predominant wind speed.
Yes.
Because even a lot of times, like in the mornings, you can really be feeling those thermals whipping down off the tops of those mountains. And then all of a sudden, everything kind of goes slack. Like in Colorado, a lot of times the predominant wind will actually fight between south and north, right? The majority of the time. And then you'll get your thermal, which seems like it's coming maybe from the east, but really it's just building up from the bottom of the mountain and coming up. And what you got to pay attention to is whenever they're mixing, because that's when you get that sideways wind, like what Guy was talking about. When you mix that thermal plus that predominant wind, it really starts hooking sideways like it's, and I was going to say this earlier, everybody talks about the puffer bottles, but me being a big whitetail hunter, we grew up using milkweed. Yeah. So the milkweed, you can throw that milkweed out and you can watch that shit for 200 to 300 yards and know exactly like, okay, the thermal's doing this here, but as soon as it gets to that shade, it dies and kills off, and you can actually watch it for a long time. So that's a little tip right there if you can get your hand on some milkweed.
So we kind of laughed at least I did at McKelvey, but that's the boy.
Manano Gilbert.
So he says I was talking full on night trying to see where they'll be coming or where they'll be the next morning. Manano. What's up, Big O? So that was in reference to the
elk. We just
you saw Canadian elk.
Hey,
they can't hear us. Michael over at Hunting Stories Podcast. Wish I could buy a beer for everyone here, brother. You can.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's Michael.
There's nothing stopping.
Guy. Long story short. Hey, before Tony's giving me a back rub in September.
It's only because you own 20,000 acres.
Right. Hey, you own 20,000 acres. I'm giving you back rub every night.
Hey, well, listen. Before Guy gives me a back rub, I say before Guy, you gonna give me a back rub too. Before Tony gives me a back rub.
You get 20,000 acres, I'll grease these motherfuckers up, warm them and everything.
hey, Michael from Hunt Stories, guess where he's gonna be? In my neck of the woods, man. I'm gonna break his ass off. I'm gonna break him off. No, on a good note though. We got some great bulls on film, and he's super excited, and I'm super excited to get him out here, man. It's gonna be fun.
Sorry, guys. Joe peeled off. I guess the elk were going crazy, so can't wrong him, man. He said, "I can't miss this. It's a blow up show." So
yeah, they got opening morning tomorrow.
Yeah, got to roll. So Michael, if you're gonna hunt elk with a wish, brother, just like buying us a beer, you got some work to do. Come up with a plan. You could buy us all the beer, bro.
We can just start a GoFundMe page.
Yeah, there you go.
You can just start plugging in the GoFundMe. We'll distribute it, and we'll take a picture of holding the beer up in camp and say thanks.
Let's see. He says, Sharp Family Adventures. That's Ross. My question is, which one of you is going to help me pack out my bull? I guess if you could reach somebody.
Where you at?
Yeah.
Got to have my Garmin in September, bro, or you ain't getting me. Thank you for the advice, says Evan, and encouragement. Guy knows. I don't know what it means to give up. So one thing, man, Evan Brannock, dude, he's going for a slam. Like, this dude was on the tundra of Alaska hunting caribou. I mean, that dude is a bad man. Albert Guy says, thanks, Cole. So we're 8:36 in. I'm going to go around to who's left. And, a couple minutes, guys, give us, well, you know what? No, I'm sorry. Hold on. Jermaine, so you just said you got some bulls located. So how does that play into, because I'm opposite, right? I know you locate the bulls, you guys go high altitude and you locate those bulls. And I'm always looking for the cows. I want to know where my old rut sign is, old sign. When I'm out scouting, I'm looking for cows. Now, we've talked about it, you and I, and the difference for me is predominantly elevation here. I don't get as high up where I'm hunting as you do. So they tend to be kind of in that same elevation band, maxing out call it 95 to 9,800. We do have a couple spots that are 10,000 plus, but they're very, very limited areas there. So how does that, oh, Joe's back. How does that look the rest of the season once you get those bulls located, you know, on camera? Because you're posting some nice ones. I'm sure they're not the good ones. So how does that look? How does that play out to the rest of your season if you're locating bulls?
Well, I think me and you've talked about this before. Anytime that I'm setting these cameras up, I do not set these cameras up to locate bulls. I locate the cows. And just, lo and behold, sometimes you get a good bull to be on camera. So when you locate all these cows, I know exactly where these cows are. Now, these cows are taking these calves where they want those calves. Now, you got to humanize this. That's mom trying to feed that baby. And not just for, the lactation part of things. They want them to graze. They want them to get the nutrition that they need for those winter months. So if those cows and calves are down there, then those bulls will be down there. Now, sometimes we'll get some of those big bulls to come down and venture down. Not all the big bulls that we're targeting. And then when I look at my cell cameras, I'm like, Jesus, what is he doing down there? And it's most of the time is because he's coming down the water because some of that water's down low. So, when I'm really targeting bulls, I'm just targeting the cows, not the bulls. The cows are going to be where they're going to be, and that's where I'm going to primarily start. So hopefully, Guy, listen, for anybody that's going to start anything that's trying to come out here to Colorado or any of these out west states, listen, if you got some cameras set out and you got cows, that's where I'm starting.
That's where you're hunting.
That's where I'm hunting.
Yeah, I'm the same. So my misunderstanding on that, I thought you guys were targeting those bulls. I mean, you guys had, you got some early ones last year, and I know you put Heath on an early. I think he killed that bull opener, right, where you sent him. So, all right. So going back to what I was saying, we got about 20 minutes left. I tell you guys 2 hours, so I don't want to belabor it. My wife is texting me mad at my dog.
I can go 5 hours, buddy.
Joe's hand raising his hand.
Jojo, go ahead.
Hey, Guy, man, I'm going to have to head out. The camp is unfolding here right now, and we're getting ready to rock this thing. And I just want to wish everybody out there that's hitting the woods and all my brothers out here that are doing this roundtable and everybody that's listening, best of luck in September. You guys have just so many cool things that you're doing for so many people. Think of all you guys. Thank all of you guys for what you're doing. And those people that are listening, one thing I'll tell you too, have fun. Don't overthink it sometimes. Don't lock up thinking that you have to, that this is going to be perfect and this is what I got to do. And I make these mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to blow things up. Just get out there, learn from it, enjoy the moment, enjoy the hunt for what it is, and it'll come to you in time.
Thank
Good
you,
luck,
Jojo.
Joe. Go get it,
Good
buddy.
luck,
Good luck, Joe.
Good luck, Joe.
And I'll see you in about, 20-ish days, man.
Yeah, I'll see you, bro.
All right, brother.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start off with Tony. So Tony, drop some pearls, man. Couple minutes. Tactic, however you think folks should be approaching it in your neck of the woods. I mean, we've kind of talked about that, but let's get the differences and then those, hopefully the points that hit the same stand out for folks.
Yeah. Well, you're right. We've touched on a lot of this already, but I'm one of those guys that's out early, listening. Sometimes I walk out and I just sit there in the dark. I don't make a sound and I just listen to see if bulls are piping off without me making any sounds. If I don't hear anything, like I said, I go into that cow-calf sequence, and because it's the least threatening call in the woods, right? That's not going to bug those bulls at all, and just listen. And we were talking earlier about that bubble. I think the one point that we didn't make there was when you when you find out where that bull is, you've got a good sense of where he might be, and you work your way in there and he's bugling on your way into him and then he shuts up, you better take a seat and listen, because a lot of times those bulls, you get in that close, they'll start moving in on you, and you won't hear a sound except for maybe a swish of a brush or a twig break-in or them tripping over a root or something like that. So just be patient. Guys get too wound up out there, and they go in too hard. And I guess for me, that's probably one key takeaway for guys is if they get in there, don't overthink it. Don't overpressure those bulls. Just get in there and listen. Get into their bedroom there and just listen to see what they're doing.
Thank you. Go ahead, Batiste.
So I think, biggest thing is yeah, I agree with Joe, is just enjoy what's happening around you. Don't focus on a notch tag, focus on, the hunt, the memories, the sights, the sounds, the smells. But the other thing too, the nugget I'm going to drop is just remember that every encounter with every elk is a little different. So don't go into it with a predetermined mindset of this is exactly how this encounter is going to go, because you're just going to be butting your head against the tree. I remember early on in my career, we were at a trailhead and there was an old timer. We were kind of talking to him about elk hunting a little bit. And he said something to me that stuck with me. And he says, how can you write a book for a story that hasn't happened yet? And what he's meaning is, don't just go in with one approach and this is how everything's going to go and this is what I'm going to do every single day. Be flexible, read the situation, and have the ability to adjust the calling that you're doing and the scenario that you're doing based on that interaction with the bull. And if you have that flexibility and you can make that adjustment, the number of call-ins that you have is going to increase. And the more encounters you have, the more opportunities you have, and your success rate is just going to go up. But more so too, the more you're going to learn from each of those. So just be flexible and have fun out there.
Go ahead, Hodge.
Oh, well, honestly, listen, let me switch back because I love seeing everybody's expression. It doesn't matter. So I love seeing everybody's expression. And like, Hodge, shut up, man. God damn, you talk too much.
Come on.
Yes,
man,
I need a
you're
back
fine.
rub. I need a back rub, Tony. So listen, go out there and have fun. Period. A lot of people come out here out west and they spend gobs of money to get it done. The point being is this: you got a tag in your pocket. Let's at least try to get it done. And if we can get it, we can get around and surround ourselves with good people and like-minded people. Dude, we're gonna have fun regardless of whether we fill these tags. Now, the bonus is we filled the tag. We filled the tag, and that's the bonus. And I want you to come out west, whether you're here out west or not. Come out west and have fun. And then when you hear an elk, listen. That's just the start of the saga. That's just the start of the saga. And then you engulf yourself with podcasts like this, and you engulf yourself with so much knowledge that, man, I've turned myself from A to B, from that person that wasn't that one that can get it done. So come out here and have fun and engulf yourself, and then promise you, if you hit me on Instagram, I will answer everything as long as I have service.
Go ahead, Huntsman.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would chime in, I'd love to piggyback off of what Joe was saying about don't overcomplicate it, guys. Just get out there and start communicating with these elk. If you're a big time caller like I am, and I know Michael is, I know Guy's a really good caller. You know, for me, I love to communicate with these animals, and a lot of people like to overcomplicate it. You know, you don't need to be a championship caller to call in elk. I mean, you need to be proficient in how you communicate with them. Focus more on how you're communicating with them, and get out there and don't complicate it. If an elk is making a noise, respond with a similar sound. But these questions that like I get on my platform a lot is like, you know, how to do this mew, what is this bugle saying, all that kind of stuff. Guys, I don't know any of that, and I call in elk all September. Don't complicate calling in elk and communicating with elk. Just get out there and start learning. And if you blow an encounter with an elk, don't let it ruin your day. Let that be a lesson and move on to the next encounter. Focus on getting an elk encounter. Don't focus on killing an elk. Don't focus on making a perfect bugle. Don't focus on hitting 10 miles in the backcountry. All these things that are real sexy that you see on social media and all that stuff. That's not what notches tags. Focus on your elk encounter. And at that point, focus on getting an arrow in that elk. And that's all you got to do. Don't complicate it. This is like what we live for. If you've never had a bull screaming so high and loud in your face that the hair isn't blowing back on your head, you don't know what you're missing. That's what you're looking for. Get out there, get in front of elk and make some noise and see what you could do and learn from every little experience you can, and get out there and make the next encounter happen as well. That's it.
Jim, from an Army standpoint, they say, oh. Hey, listen.
Well, you know,
that's
Jermaine,
amazing.
I'm a Marine, right? I'm a Marine, right? So
I
think we have a different interpretation, brother.
All right, Walt, go ahead.
Simplify.
I mean, I would just echo what everybody said. Number one, come out and have a hell of a time. Number two, do what you can to try to separate yourself from a pressure standpoint, and also do things that other people aren't willing to do, right? And I understand that from a computer screen, you're not going to be able to know exactly how many people are going to be at a trailhead, right? But don't go into it thinking, well, if I drive an hour and a half down this dirt road, get to the farthest end of this drivable road on this National Forest Service piece of land, there's not going to be anybody there, because that's probably not going to happen. Why? There's probably a parking area at the end of that road, and it's probably already going to be full. So it's one of those things where, you know, people overlook those little spots in between, you know, the entrance of the Forest Service in the end, where you can pull safely off the road, and you're either going to have to drop 1,000 foot or you're going to have to climb 1,000 foot. But that's just one of those things that most people aren't willing to do, right? And a lot of times those elk tend to congregate in those areas. But, you know, just to echo what everybody said, have a hell of a time and come into it understanding that you're going to have to put boots on the ground. You're going to have to put some miles on for the most part. And, you know, if somebody was to ask me how to allot their time, meaning if they've got 8 days off of work, I would get there 2 days before season starts, and I'd be riding those roads looking at where that pressure is going to be. I just think it makes a lot of sense to ride around and see where that pressure is going to be, because, you know, another good thing that I've been fortunate enough to have success with is using that pressure to kill elk, using that human pressure against them to kill elk.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yep, that's huge. That's huge right there. Go ahead, Wilkes.
This is gonna suck, you guys. It's gonna be the hardest fucking thing that you've ever done. You're gonna have to grind your ass to the ground. You're gonna have to push as hard as you possibly can. But you're at the end of it, you're gonna love it. Straight up, you're gonna love it. But just know she's not gonna give you an elk until you put in the work. Period. The end. You cannot get it done if you're sitting back at the truck, bullshitting with your buddies, eating lunch, doing all that. F all that. You are not going to get it done unless you're out there hammering down all the time. That's what I believe. When everybody else goes back to the truck, that's when I'm going deeper and I'm going into where the elk are. Know that it is a blast and you can have so much freaking fun, but you have to put in the effort if you want one of these creatures, y'all. Yeah. It is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life, in your hunting career, unless you've done this before. But I'm telling you right now, the day I went out my first time, I was addicted and I hadn't even heard an elk. And I had like a 75-pound bullshit pack on and hiked in like 6 miles my first time. And all I saw were Amish dudes running around, you know?
Yeah, them boys are killers, man.
Hey,
dude,
Cole.
they are
Cole.
killers.
Amen.
Killers.
That's a fact.
Amen.
That's a
I'm
fact.
just I don't want to paint no pretty pictures out there. We all build this romance for it, right? We all have this dream scenario that we want to walk into, and then we get
Shit,
punched right in the freaking
Yeah.
face whenever we land there at the bottom of the mountain and we look up and it's our first time there. It's really humbling, you know. So just know, if you don't have that mindset that you're going to grind until you physically cannot anymore, then this might not be something for you, you know. But just know that it is a blast and the reward is so huge. You guys can just never give up. You have to keep pushing no matter what.
Yeah.
That's
the
my
Primos
advice.
the Primos Truth Series is not reality.
That's a fact.
That's
Not
That's
reality.
a
It's,
fact.
it's good.
That's
It's
a
good.
fact.
It's good watching,
Hey.
but boy, oh boy, you hit the money.
That's
Hey.
a fact.
Tony,
What's that, buddy?
don't spoil everything for me, man. I've been watching the Truth for years. I thought
Yep.
it was real.
That's a fact.
So, you know, my thing is going to be, you know, it's your hunt, right? You go out there and you hunt them the best you can hunt them, just like Cole said. But you make it your hunt. It's not Jermaine. It's not Tony. It's not me. It's not Walk, Batiste, you know, Jillia, whatever, whoever you're watching and following and learning from, right? And every one of these guys is dropping pearls, but it's your hunt. So you have to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest with your abilities, your limitations, and where you're willing to push yourself, right? Be honest, just go enjoy it. Be a student of the game every single year, no matter how successful you are. Every one of these guys on here ain't stopped learning, right? I mean, you're talking, I don't even know how many bulls between the group of guys that were on here. I mean, you can't shake a stick at, you know, going out there and making it your hunt and not looking at someone else's and setting that as the standard, right? And if you have a standard, people ask me, well, man, you know, just kill a small. I'm not killing no goddamn small bull, right? I get that all the time. I ain't killing no small bull. Sorry. I'll walk home with that tag soup or the tag sandwich like Jermaine was talking about. But yeah, make it your hunt. It's your experience. Go live that freaking dream, and just have a blast at it.
Hey, Guy, can I say one more thing here real quick?
Yes, sir.
So I think it's also important for people to know that, and I think I can speak for everybody on this call here, because I think we're all kind of feel the same way. In fact, I was talking to Michael about this yesterday. There isn't one of us here that knows everything about this game, right? And we're all still learning. And I will guarantee you that I'm going to make mistakes going forward. But and so is everybody else listening to this. The thing you got to do, the thing you got to remember is you got to learn from those mistakes. And that's how you build your experience and your knowledge and your background when it comes to this game. So, you know,
Yes, agree.
We had
Agree.
one more question.
You will make a mistake. Back massage.
The mistake would be given the back massage. So Sil actually asked me the question, Guy, when hunting at altitude above 10,000, what are you predominantly looking for when it comes to feed, or are you looking for benches? Dude, I'm looking for elk. If I'm out hunting, my scouting is done. I'm not looking for any, I already got that figured out. I'm looking for elk. I'm looking for that bull, you know, not that little raghorn, but I'm looking for that bull. So I've already figured out what band they're going to be in. I already know what band they're going to be in when we kick off here in a week or so. That's
Got cut out.
Yeah.
hey, dude,
Yeah, cut
Oh
out.
man, did we lose Guy?
That's all
we
right.
lost. the
No, we
host,
lost
man.
Guy. We lost Guy.
That's crazy.
We can talk
Oh.
shit. Talk shit now.
Shit,
Talk shit now.
Hey,
Oh, is he
look,
back?
I
Oh, there you
got
go. He's back.
Guy's Terminator right here.
Did I glitch out and nobody else?
Big time.
Oh
Big
yeah,
time.
you did.
Oh, he's back. Don't talk any more shit.
I saw Jim talking about a Terminator waving that big old floppy thing, bro. I was out of that conversation. Maine's the one begging for back rubs. Y'all link up. I think you'd be close to each other. And Jim likes tie-dye and Birkenstock, so it would be all good. But boys, I appreciate you guys taking the time. I know everybody's kind of prepping, getting ready for season. I want to drop this. I dropped it spur of the moment on everybody here, so man, it's greatly appreciated. I'm glad I was able to make some introductions here, but you know, the best of luck this season. Everybody that joined us on YouTube, and then the folks that'll be listening in a day or so, thank you for joining us. Thanks for dropping the questions, supporting all these guys. If anything comes up in season, except having me help you pack out, unless you're in my hunt area, piss off. You can check these guys. But yeah, thank you greatly, gentlemen. Appreciate the hell out of all of you. I'm gonna plug some stuff here. You know, I had some companies support me over this last year. Native by Carlton, shout out to them. Hunt Wallet Boys, my boys over at Western Hunt Fest. You know, that we're gonna blow that up next year. So everybody check out that. Aerotech Archery, Iron Will, and then Pack 'em Out Apparel. You know, these companies have, you know, I pay for all my stuff, but they've, you know, extended discounts and whatnot, and they, you know, help support the podcast. So I want to give them a shout out.
Here you go, guy. Let me move to the side since the microphone was blocking it the whole time.
That's an OG Pack 'em Out shirt right there. Shout out to my boy.
This was from the original. You know, when we were doing the Wapiti Wednesday live Q&As. So
yeah, that's an OG shirt.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what's funny? Is them boys are in my backyard.
Yeah.
And I don't have a goddamn shirt yet. That's some bullshit.
You're late. I'll send you a shirt, brother.
You know,
I know. I'm so mad at those guys.
And I'm sorry, guys.
They're brothers from a different mother.
The one thing that we didn't do, why don't you guys drop all your .coms and whatnot for those who have them, YouTubes or anything real quick, and then we'll get the hell out of here. Go ahead.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
Y'all can watch a bunch of my hunts. Flatlander on YouTube, Flatlander on YT on Instagram, posting stuff up all the time there. And then if you want to learn how to do some of the stuff that I do, I have an intro to hunting course on learnhuntharvest.com. And I also do some like one-on-one online coaching, basically like Zoom call stuff like this. So if any of the listeners want to reach out and, you know, get some of my advice that I have in doing this, we've kind of started doing that online.
Go ahead, Walk.
Yeah, man, you can catch me on IG at highcountry_JWalk, as well as YouTube, same thing, highcountry_JWalk. I just dropped a new video of my antelope hunt. I was fortunate enough to kill my OTC archery buck a couple days ago, and that video's up and live. And then I got a podcast called Retired to Hunt, and it's on all the major streaming platforms. So y'all check it out.
You guys check out that podcast. Hell of a storyteller.
Yeah, right on.
Hell of a storyteller, man. I enjoy the
Thank you very much
podcast.
Thank you very much, guy, for real.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Tony.
Hey, I don't have any of that fancy stuff. I'm even fairly new to Instagram, but if you want to hit me up, I'm at the Bearded Elk Whisperer.
Go ahead, Hodge.
Yeah, that's the bearded elk whisperer. That motherfucker. Hey, listen, let me tell you. He is in hell.
Drop your damn YouTube.
He's a hell of an elk caller. I just want y'all to know. He's a hell of an elk caller.
Yeah.
So, anyways, for me, it's Jermaine Hodge _Colorado. And do not try to hit me on Facebook because my Facebook got hacked, but it's okay. We're gonna get it back.
You want to drop
and
the
then,
Koha?
And then we got the Koha, Colorado Ohio 2 Hunters, and you can follow us on that platform too as well. All right.
Batiste.
So Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, it's Elk Calling Academy. Also have a website, elkcallingacademy.com. We've got an online course, do one-on-one lessons, and In that online course, every other Wednesday, I do live Q&A sessions for the members in there. Also on the YouTube channel this year, we are going into a brand new spot. And so from the time I get in the truck and head to camp next Thursday, I'm going to be doing some mini documenting of the season, going into a new spot, how I dissect it, how I hunt it, and whether it's going to turn into a shit show or a success. So just going to bring you guys right along with it. So that'll be on the YouTube. But yeah, pretty much everything across the board is Elk Calling Academy.
Mr. Huntsman.
Kind of like what Michael said, everything across the board is at the Western Huntsman. You can check out the westernhuntsmanpodcast.com or find me over at Eastman's Hunting Journals with eastmans.com for any writing, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. We're all linked up with that. So honor and a pleasure to be on I think I'm the biggest loser when it comes to how many tags I've notched compared to everybody else on this show. So I appreciate you guys having me.
Hey, Jim, don't forget to drop the I like big floppies.
No. Let me give you a big floppy there. I got your little flute wiener right here, but don't you forget it.
And then just because the other boys jumped off, Joe Gilly, of course, Elk Bros, elkbros.com, Elk Bros Adventures, and then my brother Garrett Weaver over at On Point with Garrett Weaver On Point Podcast. Although Garrett hasn't dropped a podcast in quite some time, I don't think, because I don't get notifications anymore. Again, thank you all. Appreciate you. Oh, my Armando, man, I left him out of that mix. So Armando takes care of everybody. I think Walt got hooked up. Jermaine's rocking it.
The bow hitch.
Right, so carrying your bow sucks. Check out the bow hitch. Probably the best $50 that you could spend on that little ditty, man. It is a lifesaver. Gentlemen, best of luck this season.
Good luck, everybody.
It was
Peace
nice
out.
talking to you guys.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Everybody on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us. You guys have a great season. Best of luck to you.
I'm out.
How do I turn this off, man?
No, just stay on, buddy.